You're listening to the Things Podcast, brought to you by the Things Industries.
Hi, everybody. This is Alix Paultre, and I'm here at the Things Conference with Florian Lukavsky, and he's with the IoT Security Foundation. Well, Florian, I'm glad to have you here because, well, security is an important thing, isn't it?
It is, exactly. And what we focus on at the IoT Security Foundation and in the regulatory watch group in particular is a regulation around IoT security, which is emerging everywhere around the globe.
Exactly. Now, one of the things, Florian, that I've observed about regulatory activity is a regulation comes out and then companies or individuals figure out ways to get around the regulation, and then they expand the regulation and make it a little more complicated, and then the companies find other ways to, and so it's almost like a cat and mouse between the regulatory organizations and the manufacturers to find an even ground where it's cost effective for the manufacturer, but it's also useful for the industry, and that the regulators can do something about it. What's your position on that?
Yes, that's what we've been observing as well over the past decades. And I think this is where the EU is currently putting a stop to it with the upcoming Cyber Resilience Act, where the EU basically said, okay, let's put everything into scope, everything that speaks or connects via some network, not just internet connected or radio equipment as it was covered in the past, but everything from a mobile app to a IoT device, all together with back-end processing systems.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense because something I've said many, many times is everything powered is going to eventually become smart, and everything smart is eventually going to become connected, and everything connected is eventually going to become intelligent. So now I guess they're jumping in.
Compromised.
Right. So I can understand the regulators' dilemma because they have to stay ahead of all of this development.
That's correct. And the big issue or struggle is that the smart and connected and intelligent devices, they are also increasingly attractive targets for cyber criminals. And this is where the regulators actually have to come in because it's increasingly becoming a matter of national security to be resilient against cyber attacks. So this is the focus of regulators.
Can you give us an example of something that you're working on now to improve the cybersecurity regulations?
Definitely. So in the working group, we are focusing to provide insights and executive briefs to various regulatory activity out there. And in my day job, where I work as Chief Innovation Officer at SignPath, we focus on software integrity and code signing. So basically helping organizations to secure and lock down their development processes to make sure that supply chain security is adhered to.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's a multiple facets in that as well, because when I think of security, one of the things I think about is a secure chain of trust with the passwords or the key codes or the chips. And will regulatory activity start to cover that aspect to ensure that the chain of trust is intact?
Definitely. So this is also one of the key aspects of the Cyber Resilience Act, that it doesn't just focus on the product itself that the manufacturer creates themselves, but it also covers the entire supply chain. So basically everything that the supplier packs into the product will also be subject to regulation, also be subject to the Cyber Resilience Act.
Well, when you think about that, right, Florian, there are different layers when it comes to security as well, because I've got the physical security of the device. I've got the code security of the operating system. I've got the personal security of the user, their privacy and the like. Then I also have to think about the infrastructure, making sure that is all secure. So it really does become almost a game of whack-a-mole, like all of these heads keep popping up, all of these issues keep popping up that have to be integrated and addressed as well.
That's true, and that's definitely a challenge. the way it's being addressed by the Cyber Resilience Act is that the Cyber Resilience Act promotes a very risk-based approach. So basically, depending on what infrastructure a device may be running in or software may be operating in, or what data it processes, there may be different security requirements to safeguard it or to deal with certain challenges. And so with the Cyber Resilience Act, as a manufacturer, you're actually very flexible in defining what particular security measures are adequate for the use case. You just have to be transparent to it, A, about the assumptions that you have made, and B, about the security measures that you have implemented, so that your customers can also put these assumptions and security measures into consideration in selecting a product.
Now, Florian, is there any specific area within the security space that you see is critical, that needs to be addressed more than others, or is it just a big area that everything is critical?
Yeah, I mean, there's always some devices which are more critical and less critical. One area that, in my opinion, has been neglected for too long, but is kind of catching up very fast now, is the industrial area, where we have devices with a very long time span, which used to be like hidden away and segregated in their own networks, but which are increasingly interconnected now, so which pose new attack surfaces. And due to the long lifespan and longevity, they will also be around with us for a long time. So this is something that we need to start addressing now, because many processes, many also critical infrastructure and critical environments depend upon it working properly.
Well, exactly. I mean, because that was part of what I was saying when, all these power devices are now becoming smarter. A lot of them are legacy industrial systems, and they didn't care about security. It wasn't connected to anything. It wasn't tethered to anything. And as you point out, now they are. Was there any aspect of this that we didn't bring up that you'd like to bring up for our audience?
Yeah. I mean, one key fact that I'd like to stress is start today, because the Cyber Resilience Act, it has been enacted already. It will be fully enforced by end of 27. So that's not a long time to adopt security practices into software development procedures, into the design of new devices, new applications. So basically you need to start now if you haven't started already.
Excellent point, Florian. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for taking the time to come talk to us about this. And security is important.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.